All right, these are the notes for Broward College Health Science Bootcamp, the measurement module for just metric to metric conversions. And before you complete these notes, you should read the chapter on conversions to have a better idea of what we're going to do. So now you'll notice in most of the scientific community uses the metric system. And even though we don't use too much metric system in the US, we do use it a lot in health science, and so it's beneficial to understand the metric system. And what's cool about the metric system is that it's really just a place value system where the relationship between the units is going to be a power of 10. So when we're talking about powers of 10s and place value, what that does is it moves your decimal left or right based on the number of zeros. So if you're multiplying by a power of 10, you can move the decimal to the right based on the number of zeros. And if you're dividing by a power of 10, then you'll move the decimal left based on the number of zeros. What's also very neat about the metric system is that the prefixes for length, mass, and volume are all the same, and the relationships are all the same. So if you know how to convert meters to kilometers, hectometers, decameters, etc., then you could do the same with mass, with kilograms, hectograms, decagrams, and volume, kiloliters, hectoliters, decaliters, etc. So once you understand the prefixes and how to move in the metric system, you can then convert lengths, masses, and volumes. Okay, so now what we did in the US to US conversions was we decided that we didn't know whether we were timesing or dividing, so we were going to go ahead and do both, and we used these clever forms of 1, and that is also true in the metric conversions. You can use a clever form of 1, meaning you're using these equivalences to make a fraction to convert. Let's try. I've got 50 grams, and I want to convert that to milligrams. So I'm going to look on my chart here, and I see that 1 milligram is 0.001 grams, but I also see that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. Now, which one of those is going to be easier? Well, since I want grams on bottom to cancel, it's easier to have 1 on bottom. So I'll put my 1 gram on bottom and my 1,000 milligrams on top. Now grams cancel, and the math that I'm doing is 50 times 1,000. Technically over 1. Now, timesing by 1,000 is a power of 10. So I have 3 zeros in 50. So what I need to do, in 1,000. So what I need to do is move the decimal to the right 3 places on the number 50. So I have the number 50, and its decimal place is here. I need to move the decimal 1, 2, 3 spaces, which is the same as just tacking on 3 zeros. But I want you to keep the idea of moving the decimal place in mind. So I have 50,000 milligrams. Okay, let's convert 10 kilometers to meters. So I have 10 kilometers, and I know I'm going to need some conversion to get rid of kilometers and change to meters. So again, there is a conversion here which has 1 kilometer, and that's what I need on bottom, and that would be perfect because having a 1 on bottom is really going to be great. So I'm going to use this conversion that 1 kilometer is the same as 1,000 meters. So I'm going to take kilometers out because they canceled, and I'm doing 10 times 1,000. Again, technically over 1. So I'm going to take the number 10, whose decimal point is here, and I'm going to move the decimal 3 places to the right. 1, 2, 3. So that tacks on 3 zeros. So my answer is 10,000 meters. Let's try another one. Convert 3,800 grams to kilograms. So I'm starting with 3,800 grams, and I need to change from grams to kilograms. So if I look here, 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. So I have 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. So the math is going to be 3,800 times 1 divided by 1,000. So now 3,800 times 1 is just 3,800. So let's write that. 3,800 over 1,000. So now there are 3 zeros in 1,000. I'm dividing by 1,000, which means I have to take the decimal of 3,800 and move the decimal 3 places to the left. Right? When you're timesing by 1,000, you move the decimal to the right. When you're dividing by 1,000, you move to the left. So I have to go 1, 2, 3. So that leaves me with 3.8 kilograms. Now, I want you to pay attention here that sometimes the numbers are getting bigger, meaning the decimal is moving to the right, and sometimes the numbers are getting smaller because the decimals are moving to the left. I want you to keep that in mind when we do these problems. So let's do 15 liters to milliliters. So I'm going to start with 15 liters, and I need to convert that to milliliters. Now again, there was 2 different conversions here. That 1 milliliter is 0.001 liters, or we could say that 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. And again, anytime we can avoid those decimals, right, timesing or dividing by a decimal, we're better off. So I'm going to go ahead and use the fact that 1,000 milliliters is equal to 1 liter. Liters cancel. So on top, I have 15 times 1,000 over 1. When I'm timesing by 1,000, I'm going to move the decimal to the right 3. So I have the number 15 with its decimal here, and I have to move it to the right 3. So my final answer is 15,000 milliliters. Okay, let's convert 1.6 meters to centimeters. 1.6 meters to centimeters. So meters on bottom, centimeters on top. Again, we've got two different conversions. We could use 1 centimeter is 0.01 meters, or 1 meter is 1,000 centimeters. I would use the second one to avoid decimals. So I have 1 meter is the same as 100 centimeters. And now we'll do that math. So we're going to have 1.6 times 100, technically over 1. So now we're timesing by 100. When you times by 100, you're going to move the decimal to the right 2 places. So I have my 1.6, here's my decimal. I have to go 2 places to the right, so I'm tacking in a 0. So now my final answer would be 160 centimeters. So now you can always do this conversion this way, but I want to show you a pattern. Okay, so let's look. When in A, like in let me get a different color here. So in problem A, I went from grams to milligrams. So I went from grams to milligrams, and I ended up timesing by 1,000, or moving my decimal to the right 3 spaces. Okay, when I was going from kilometers to meters, I moved my decimal to the right 3 spaces. When I was going from grams to kilograms, I moved my decimal to the left 3 spaces. So grams to kilograms, I moved my decimal left. And let me just, for posterity here, write word right. Okay, when I went from liters to milliliters, I moved my decimal to the right. Liters to milliliters, I moved my decimal right. And then from meters to centimeters, I moved my decimal right. It turns out that if you're moving down the list, you move your decimal to the right, and if you're moving up the list, you move your decimal to the left. Okay, let's try an example here. All right, so this is just a bonus example using the trick. Because remember, if you memorize the prefixes, then you get length, mass, and capacity all for free, right? Once you know one, you know all of them. So let's say I wanted to do 3 decaliters to kiloliters. I'm going to have to move up from decaliters up to kiloliters. I went up 2. So my decimal is going to go left 2. So here's my decimal. I go 1, 2. So I would have 0.03 kiloliters. Let's try another one. Let's do 40 centimeters to millimeters. So I'm moving from centimeters down to millimeters. So when you move down, I'm going to have to go right 2. Or sorry, right 1, because I'm only moving 1 space down. So I would take this decimal and I would move it 1 to the right. So that would give me 400 millimeters. So anytime you're moving up the chart, you move your decimal left. Anytime you're moving down the chart, you move your decimal right. Okay, let's try one more. So let's try 8 kilograms to milligrams. So here I'm starting at kilograms and I'm going down, down, down to milligrams. How many down did I go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have to move my decimal right 6. So here's my decimal. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros, 8 million milligrams.